It's starting again.
When Psycho 2 was announced in 1983, most people expected a cynical cash grab. After all, how do you make a sequel to one of the greatest horror films ever made? But surprisingly, the answer was by doing something completely unexpected. Instead of simply repeating the original story, Psycho 2 takes Norman Bates in a fascinating new direction and delivers one of the most underrated horror sequels of the 1980s. Psycho 2 was released in 1983, directed by Richard Franklin and starring Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, and Meg Tilly. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Backtrack Cinema. This is my review of Psycho 2. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today to talk some Psycho 2. Love this flick. I think it's a great flick. During the 1980s slasher craze, it's nice to see Psycho return. And, so we're going to have a lot of fun with this one, guys. So please like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And don't hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. And let's get into it. Anthony Perkins, man. Anthony Perkins, I think, carries this film. The biggest strength of Psycho 2 is undoubtedly him. Perkins returns to Norman Bates more than 20 years after the original film, and this performance is incredible. Rather than portray Norman as a monster from the start, he plays him as broken, a childlike man trying to rebuild his life after being released from a mental institution.
It's because of me, isn't it? That's why you have it.
Of course not.
I just love this. There's an innocence to Norman that makes you want to root for him. What happens to him is very sad, but at the same time, Perkins never lets you forget who this character is. Every smile, every nervous glance.
Don't lie to me. Not you.
Every moment of uncertainty carries an underlying sense of dread. You constantly wonder whether Norman's truly recovering or if he's slowly slipping back to madness. And both Vera Miles and Meg Tilly do not know the mind they're dealing with when they're just poking that bear, drawing Mother back out.
I'm sorry, Mother. I didn't mean to insult you.
Norman, stop it. This is not your mother.
It's one of the best horror performances of the decade and arguably Perkins' finest work as the character. A smart story that doesn't rehash the original. One of the things I really appreciate, guys, most about Psycho 2 is that it doesn't simply remake the first movie. The film takes a psychological approach by taking an interesting question. What happens when Norman Bates is released back into society? Instead of making Norman this obvious villain, the movie presents him in a way who's a man who's trying to move forward. Much of the conflict comes from Lila Loomis, played by Vera Miles, who cannot accept that Norman has been declared sane. She becomes obsessed with proving that he's still dangerous. So who really is the crazy people in this story?
What difference does it make? We want him recommitted. This would have done it.
Mother, he's innocent.
This creates a fascinating dynamic because Norman is not initially the antagonist. In many ways, he's being manipulated and pushed toward the edge, making the audience sympathize with him more than they ever expected.
Norman, stop it. This is not your mother. Hello. Hello, Lila? Lila, are you there?
Themes of obsession and control. Beneath the slash elements, the film explores some surprisingly strong themes. Lila's obsession with punishing Norman ultimately becomes destructive. The movie raises questions about whether someone could truly recover from trauma and whether society could ever forgive a person with such a dark past. There's also a theme about the dangers of trying to control another person's mind, like I stated before. Several characters attempt to manipulate Norman's reality, and those actions have devastating consequences.
You killed them all!
These themes give the film more depth than many horror sequels of the era. The mystery is great, the suspense. Another element that works well is the mystery. As strange events become happening around Norman, the audience is left wondering whether he's committing the murders or if someone else is responsible. The film keeps you guessing throughout much of its runtime. The reveal involving Mrs. Spool adds another layer to the story. Learning that she is actually Norman's biological mother and a bizarre twist, but somehow it fits that twisted mythology of the franchise and helps separate the sequel from the original.
You sure you won't have a sandwich?
Pardon?
The kills. While Psycho 2 is more psychological than many slashers of the period, it still delivers some memorable kills. The standout for me has always been the knife through the mouth sequence of Vera Miles. I like how they homage the shower kill in a way, you know, doing it their own way. It's shocking, brutal, and one of those horror moments that stays with you long after the movie ends. It stayed with me my whole life. I could still remember when I wanted to watch Psycho 2 on like TV, and my mom said, and I looked in the TV guide and it didn't come on till like midnight or something like that. And my mom said, if you could stay up till midnight, you can watch it. I could never make it. Then one time it was on at 11. I made it and I kind of fell asleep, but I woke up to that kill. So it was so impactful, right? The kills aren't too excessive, but they're effective, and they serve the story rather than existing purely for gore. The third act is where the film really shines, as Norman finally loses his grip on reality. Anthony Perkins fully embraces the darker side of the character. The ending feels tragic because you spent most of the film hoping Norman might actually escape his past.
And I'll cover up for you. I'll give you the knife. I always have. Because I'm your dutiful son. And you're my loving mother.
The final image is absolutely iconic. Norman standing beside the Bates house as the clouds roll overhead. It's a haunting visual that perfectly closes the story while confirming that Norman Bates has truly returned. It's one of the strongest endings in horror sequel history. It's one of my favorite posters too, and the score. I think the score is very beautiful at times. It's a haunting, beautiful score with the piano. I like how they didn't try to repeat everything with strings. They made their own score. It's their own unique film with Psycho 2. So in a lot of ways, guys, Psycho 2 has no business being this good. It takes enormous risks by making Norman Bates a sympathetic character, especially for its time, gives Anthony Perkins some of his best material of his career, introduces a compelling mystery, and explores themes of obsession, manipulation, and mental illness without simply copying the original film. So I'm going to give Psycho 2 a solid B. Psycho 2 is proof that sometimes the most unnecessary sequel could become one of the most surprising. It's very intelligent, it's suspenseful, and surprisingly, very emotional continuation of the Norman Bates character, the story that stands as one of the better horror sequels of the 1980s. But what about you guys? What did you think of Psycho 2? Do you love it? Don't you like it? If you're like me, I still think the original Psycho is the best of them all, but Psycho 2 is a really good slasher horror movie from 1983, and I recommend all of you watching some Psycho 2. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on some upcoming reviews, rankings, all that jazz. My name is Jason. You've been watching Backtrack Cinema. I'll see you next time, and I'll see you in the movies. Cheers.